things that I loved about the Live Ship Traders trilogy, and then again here, was the brilliant playing with different point of views, where you could see something from one character's perspective and then see the same thing from a different character's perspective differently. And the Rainwilds books, I don't think did it as well, but I did really appreciate the moments where it did do it. Like where Elise and Leftrin are falling in love and they are head over heels and it's great from both of their perspectives. And then we step back and we get Cedric's perspective for half a second and he looks at it and is like, oh, bad plan. No, you guys aren't good fits. And then me as a reader, I start considering that perspective. Like, yeah, this is kind of just like Elise getting the rebound guy because she's just, escaping her husband. And this is like the first man that showed her kindness and flirted with her. And another really good one was with Rapskull, that as we saw this character from Thymara's point of view, it was just like, he's just slowly going crazy and he's doing it to himself and like, yeah, Thymara should just dump him. And then when we got to see Rapskull from a different character's point of view, we got to see his sadness in that he can't control these changes anymore. It's kind of like on a snowball course and he's really sad that he's losing his love interest. So I like that the different perspectives encourage us to think more critically about the characters and really examine them, that the more views we get of them, the more complicated they are. But overall, these books are just kind of too slow. I have absolutely nothing against long books. I love books of all shapes and sizes. But this book, it felt like it had so many little parts that were just kind of unnecessary, and it would keep building something up and up and up, and it would be like 3 books before it actually went somewhere. Take Elise's troubles with love. So she's in a situation, she has a crush on Leftrin, but then she's married to a different guy, Hest, who's terrible to her and cheating on her. And if she had proof that he was cheating on her, she could get a divorce. She doesn't have proof. However, she is traveling with the man that her husband is cheating on her with. And of course, me, the reader, is expecting the secret to come out within the first book, right? Because they keep building it up and it would be such a great moment of like terrible conflict. But then it just doesn't, and it's just, I like when things are drawn out, but there's a point where it's just too drawn out, and I feel like these books hit those points a few times, which is kind of sad because the rest of the trilogies in this series are actual trilogies, and this is 4 books, and I kind of feel like they should have just cut a book and smushed all the plot points together, and it would have been better. Binging them was fun. But I feel like if I had to wait between each of these books, every time I got the book, it would have just been like, that's it? That's the entire book? Because the individual books, they stretch out these plot points so much that it doesn't feel like there's real progression happening in every book. And there were so many chapters where I felt like it was spending the page count and the caring count of the reader in places that it didn't really need to be. Take Hest, the unfaithful husband. So in the beginning of the books, he's a really good absent protagonist because it's not him, but like the memory and the idea of him that is causing the conflict with Elise's crush on Leftrin. But then we start getting chapters from Hest's perspective. Hest is far away from all the other characters. He's not really involved in their plot. Every time we got a Hest chapter, I was just disappointed. At the very beginning, it was kind of interesting to get inside Hest's head, but then after that, it was just flat, because it's not Hest that's really the antagonist here, it's just the memory and the idea of him. So when Hest actually shows up into the Dragon City and finally confronts all these other people, it's just kind of like, well, we already got over you, we already processed our issues with you, like, last book, so... Like, the purpose of Hest was to be the source of conflict for Elise and Cedric, and him showing up did help them finally put the nail in the coffin, finish that arc. But we didn't really need all of Hest's chapters and all of his adventures and all of him being extorted to get that, because the book wasn't about Hest, and I didn't care about him. Anyway. Wow, this review seems really negative. But I did enjoy reading these books. The writing is still beautiful, and the plots are still fun. They're just really long. But another example of some wasted character non-development. The chapters narrated by Centaura the Dragon. An occasional chapter? I'm fine with that. But Centaura is just a jerk from beginning to end, and there are hints that she might start regretting it. But then she doesn't. It was just kind of frustrating to keep reading all these chapters. And I understand that that's kind of trying to show off like the dragon personality, that they're not big into character development or humility or respect of humans. But still, it was just so long with things that I didn't really care about at that point. So let's talk about Thymara, a character that does change over the course of the series, and also the center of the second love triangle, if we can call it that. I guess there are 3 love triangles in these books. Thymara kind of felt flat to me. I don't know, how do I express this? It's like her and the love triangle, where she has to choose between Rapskull and Tats, and part of her arc is realizing and explaining to others that she doesn't have to choose. Just because she's in a love triangle doesn't mean she has to pick either of them, and doesn't mean she has to pick them within the confines of the book, which I think is a positive message. Go. But also, in the end, she does choose Tats, but it is the most unsatisfying choice, because she only chooses him because Rapskull has, started going insane. And she's like, "Ooh, you're not the person I liked anymore." So she's just like, well, I guess Tats is still here and he's good, so why not? And I never really connected with Thymara or Tats or Rapskull, because it just kind of was like the books and books of Thymara just waffling between Rapskull and Tats was just kind of like, choose someone already. And I understand the point was to say, hey, you don't just have to choose someone, you could just be single. But then she does end up choosing someone, so it didn't even hit hard on that message. And this is kind of unfair, of course, because if Thymara had just rushed into character development and changed all at once, I would be complaining that that was unrealistic and unsatisfying. But also, Thymara's slow development, not really making any big decisions, just kind of going with the flow, also disappointing. And there's the crux of it, that in books, I want it to mimic real life and feel real in some ways. But on the other hand, I'm also reading books to be entertained. And if it stretches on for so long, it is no longer entertaining if there isn't some additional drama and shakeup in there. There were so many moments in this book where I was just bored. Still enjoying myself, but kind of bored with the plot and the characters and I think this is my least favorite of the Realm of the Elderlings trilogies. Hello? It's actually a quartet, or is that a tetralogy? Yeah, whatever. We can call it a trilogy so it's easier to talk about. No, the point is, you haven't yet read the last trilogy. You can't start flinging around labels like best and worst. Like the Fitz and the Fool trilogy isn't going to take the cake. Like, whatever position it ends up on, I don't think I'm gonna like it less than the Rainwilds trilogy. Yeah, but aren't these reviews supposed to have a little bit of... What, impartiality? No, like... Objectivity? No, but a modicum professionalism? Like a bit of science mindfulness here. Like trying to make good, fair judgments, to look at things critically, to have, I don't know, like a rating system. And not just deciding that something is the worst before you've sampled all the things. Well, I do like science. But reading books, it's not about science, it's about art. It's about how these books make me feel, and this book made me feel kind of bored and disconnected. Even though I did enjoy parts, and feelings are closer to art than they are to science. And with art, you can never really decide what is the best and worst art. So, hereby, I declare that the Rainwilds trilogy is my least favorite of the Realm of the Elderlings trilogies. That's still... Okay, fine. You're entitled to your opinion. Okay, to top off the cake, I will talk briefly about something that I did like about this series, which was the beautification of staple relationships. There were a lot of good staple relationships in this story, and some less staple relationships and abusive ones, but I do think that this book was trying to explore the difference between a good relationship and an abusive relationship, and it did a really good job on that. I absolutely adore the relationship between Elise and Leftrin. They're like the best. I like how, in the end, Hest was shown to be incredibly abusive and not really good for anyone in the story, that he didn't get a happy ending, and that was good. Fine by me. I'm glad that I read these books, mostly so I can read the Fitz and the Fool trilogy now. But I don't think I'm gonna be revisiting them, because in the end, I didn't fall in love with any of the characters. I appreciated the writing, and I do think the plotting, overall, big picture, was good. But from chapter to chapter, was disappointing.